I call to order this regular select board meeting for Thursday, April 13th, 2023. It is 6 p.m. Any adjustments to the agenda from anyone?
Yes, I'd like to add that we talk about, pardon me, talk about, add to the agenda action steps to be taken for hiring of the next road commissioner for the town of Underhill.
Okay, we will insert that. How about right before the town administrator updates?
That's fine.
Okay. Any other adjustments? So we will proceed with the warrant agenda plus that one item that will happen after around 7:40. Are there any people that wants to make an opening public comment? I don't see anybody. I see some people on the screen, the remote screen. I don't know if there's anybody. Hearing none, we will move on to the first item on the agenda, and that will be the ARPA Advisory Committee final report. And welcome, Bill Frank. Please introduce yourself and where you live, and you will be heard.
Thank you very much, Dan. So I am Bill Frank. I was elected chair of the advisory committee to come up with recommendations on how to spend the remaining ARPA money. I live on Poker Hill Road, lived there for, well, we never could remember when we moved there, but it's getting close to 50 years, so for a while. So you formed this advisory committee back, I think, in September. And, you know, the only charge that we really had from you was to come up with recommendations on how to spend $655,403. And we started off, well, first off, next screen is the committee members, which I think you all remember. Jill, Nori, Luke, Michael, Emily, and Roy, and of course, Jennifer. I think probably the first thing that we had problems with is coming up with a meeting date, when to meet, which turned out to be the second Monday of the month. And on the second page, I have a list of the 9 meetings that we had. They were all on the second Monday of the month, except for in February, and then a final one that we did on April 6th. And as I was putting this list down, I thought, boy, this committee is real. Not only were we dedicated to doing this, but I think the fact that there was never more than 2 people absent, and that was only 1 meeting. So in my calculation, was 86% attendance rate. But still, we had this little thing about really what is our charge and how shall we define our charge. So obviously one of the first things you do is to elect a chair. And the very first meeting, there's one person absent, which was me. So I graciously took over chair. They did the official vote, obviously, at the second meeting, but one of the things we had quite a nice range of people. There were some of us that have lived in Underhill for a long time. There were some that have not lived in Underhill very long. All of us have served on some committee in the town or something to deal with the town. But then we had to say, well, what are we going to do? So first it was, we need some proposals, because one of the things we wanted to do is to make sure that we had an opportunity to ask residents, how would you spend this money? So soliciting proposals was really the first main thing, and we agreed that we would each at some time make a post on Front Porch Forum. We would talk to town committees that we would visit or that people were a member of. We came to you and asked you for money to send out a postcard. I think the postcard was very good. I got lots of comments on it. I don't know how many proposals I got out of it, but there were a lot of comments and people asking me real specific things about it, and it was sort of like, so how can I get some of that money, or how can we get some of that money? The proposals started coming in right away. A little slow at first, but that was okay. In fact, even before the postcard went out. But each meeting was basically where we took every proposal that had come in from the previous meeting and we went through it. We'd all read it because Jennifer had forwarded it to each of us. And we had different types of questions, different types of concerns, and concerns along the line of, does this really meet the requirements of ARPA? And does it really meet the requirements that we have on how we want to decide who's going to get the money, of which we had a very hard time defining, but you sort of knew. We also set January 31st as a deadline for the proposals. And we set not a deadline, but kind of a goal that we would be done in April. So we strive very much in that. And so our last meeting, April 6th, was really the one where we went through and made a motion to give this much money to this proposal and stuff like that. But as I said, at first we thought we should come up with some kind of a chart where we could rank these proposals on this. Well, as soon as the next proposal came up, it didn't meet that and so much. Finally, at one meeting, I said, I'm sorry, but this is not the type of thing where we can actually go through and put a number on it. This is too subjective for it. And we're very good about sharing our ideas. And I think when we share our ideas, we will know which proposals are the ones that really do. So I put together this little chart here that showed some of the things about the proposals. 53 proposals came up. Chart number 1, if you're interested, has all 53 listed here. They're listed by the organization that submitted them. Then something that sort of ring our bell about what the proposal was. The person who submitted it, or the contact person, and the dollars that they requested. The last column really didn't belong on this chart, but that was a ranking we did much later. So 53 proposals. We ended up recommending funding for 14. Actually, it was a little more than 14 because we did group some proposals together because there were things that came together. For example, proposals related to a sidewalk, a recreation path, or something along that line, 8 of them. And they were all a little bit different, but the same general idea that they want a sidewalk in Underhill Center. They want a sidewalk from Underhill Center down to the flats. They want to do, every proposal was a little more specific about it. But finally, after one meeting, I asked Emily, I said, would you go together and take all the proposals that we have about sidewalk and see if we can combine them into one and what that would be? What would we fund for that? There also were 10 proposals that had no funding, which doesn't, there are a lot of proposals I thought about doing and I had no idea how much I would ask for. And I think that was the case with many of those. But people that did ask, if we added that all up, $3.4 million. So it wasn't like we could just fund everything. Some of the other things are on there about proposals. One of the things about the proposals was, I think the end of January was like midweek, like Wednesday maybe. And on Sunday afternoon, I was looking through the proposals and I was thinking, okay, we're about done here. I'm going to really sort of do my whole thing about what I like about these and everything. Monday through Wednesday, I think there were 10 more that came in, or 12 more that came in or something, which sort of took
at the bell.
Just right up to the end. So the review process, I told you that we reviewed each one individually. Many times we had questions about it, and we would assign one person that would go out and talk to the person who wrote it and find out to get answers to those questions. There were proposals that were handwritten on one page. There were proposals that were about 15 pages long. A wide variety of them. There were proposals that had things attached to them that wasn't their doing, but they wanted to do something and they found an article or something that we're able to put it on. But they all described what they wanted in pretty good detail. We got down to the point where we had reviewed all 53, and we decided at that point we need to somehow rank these so we know which ones we feel strongest about. And so we decided on this ranking of 1 to 4, 1 being the highest. 4 was not that we didn't want to do it, but it had if we gave it a 4, it was definitely the last one that we would propose. That way, if you averaged it, and you got a ranking of 1.3, then that meant that most people gave it a 1. Somebody didn't. So before we really moved ahead, I said, let's go through these proposals, because I think every member knew that there were some that we were not going to do. I mean, you just look at it and you sort of shake your head. It makes no sense. We didn't like it. So we went through and each proposal, and it was sort of like, so how many people would give this a 4? You raised your hand. We said, well, that's not going to make it to phase 2. Doesn't mean we threw it away. It just wasn't going to be in the next phase of doing this. And we got it down to 22, I think, proposals doing that, which was a much more manageable thing. Then I asked everybody to go through and give every proposal their ranking, 1 through 4. Jen had it up on a sheet that everyone could enter it. And before the next meeting, everybody had entered it in, and you could look and see which ones were,
Chart 2.
were the best. So chart 2 is the one that has those, and they're ranked according to, or they're sorted according to the ranking. So if you look at this, the ones, if you have the colored one, the ones in gray are the proposals that were grouped together. So there's, for example, on the town hall improvements, there were 4 proposals that we grouped together which dealt with improvements to the town hall. So we started down. It was easy. We started down looking at it, and the average ranking, there was only one of them that got an average ranking of 1, and that was the sidewalk proposal. But we that was, as I said, we had decided that before, because obviously it had the most number of people that had put it in. There were lots of comments that we got otherwise and everything. However, each of these 8 proposals that we grouped together were a little bit different. They cost different. and we weren't really sure how we were going to come up with an amount. So what we did was we decided not to put an amount in, and let's go through the rest of them. And if we have money, the money we have left over after doing all the others, we subtract from the $655,000 and put that in for the sidewalk. That was our first pass, since that's what we wanted to do. So that was number one. And I don't think it ever in anybody's mind thought that this was not going to be number one. We also thought that we want to give this enough money so that it shows that we really believe that this is what the residents want. This was a number one thing that people put in. The second most supported project was renovation to the town hall. And it was clear in reading different proposals according to this, is that people felt that they would like the town hall, especially this room right here, something that they can be proud of again, the looks of it, that they can, it can be refurbished, it can be upgraded and everything. So what we did is we took four main proposals about doing renovations to the town hall. One was what Jen put in for renovating this. The Energy Committee put in 3 proposals to upgrade the electrical system in the whole town hall, to install all new lighting, and to install a backup generator. So we took those 3 proposals from the Energy Committee and put in with the town hall, and that was our number 2. Our number 2 recommendation is to $138,000 for that project. Number 3 on it was the need for affordable housing in Underhill. This certainly didn't get multiple proposals that were submitted, but the Harvest Crossing project made a proposal, and what they did is they looked at all the things that they have to do, projects that they have to get the property ready for building houses on it, and they chose one. And this was a long discussion that we had about why did they choose this one? Why would we fund this over something else? So in the end, we just gave them some money, and there's plenty of things that they need. And the main one is to have enough cash on hand to close with Phil Jacobs, hopefully yet this month or early next month. And talking to them, they feel pretty good if they can get this closed, that there is a possibility that Habitat would buy the first lot yet this year. And that was one of the things we also looked at. Are these things that are going to get done, are they really going to get done? We would like projects that looks like, will get done and people can use yet this year. The Energy Committee also proposed building a solar panel field behind the town hall. This was an interesting proposal. It had a lot of support, but I'm not sure it got any number ones. And so this went back and forth, and finally we decided that really was a good project. The $49,500 was a estimate that the Energy Committee received. So that's why we put that in. The Deborah Rawson Memorial Library put in a proposal that really had many items in it that didn't really go along with the ARPA guidelines. So this was a time where we assigned somebody to go down and talk to Holly, find out why she chose those things and if she knew the things. And she said what the library really needs is a new HVAC system. heating and air conditioning system for the library, and that they do have a capital needs budget that they've started to accumulate money to do this, and they would like that. And I said, so Holly, I think it'd be much better if you rewrote your proposal and put that in with the amount that they have as a, and she said they were expecting a number soon. And so they did. So this was since we share the library with Jericho, we really wanted to do this proposal to the 40% amount that we share it with, and hope that Jericho would do the other 60%. So there's also a couple others along this line, but I'll tell you. So I talked to the Jericho Select Board about the fact that we were really interested in doing this, and they can't put it in unless they get your portion of it. And the bottom line is that the Jericho Select Board is making the final decisions, just like you guys are making the final decision, but they don't have anyone in between. They make it. So they said, well, we can't make a decision with you. So when the Underhill Select Board decides, let's have them get together and we'll decide what to do. So, okay, I'm just sharing that with you, that they would like to meet with you about this and the others that I'll mention later. But a big thing that we said is, so let's say we'll just take the library, for example. What if Jericho doesn't agree to fund their 60% of it? What's going to happen? And the committee is really adamant that we should still give the amount to the library to put in their capital needs fund so that they can still get there. It's just maybe not get it quite as soon. The Underhill Recreation Committee had two proposals, one for new playground structures at the town pond and for a new rebound wall for the tennis courts. We took those two proposals, put them together. They totaled $31,000, and we're recommending that they receive the $31,000 for those two projects. Again, we feel strongly that those are the type of projects that can get done this summer, so residents really can start using it. The fire department was another one that their first proposal just did not meet the guidelines. It had, as I remember, it wanted to have two new full-time people that would be funded with ARPA funds, which is, an ongoing thing. So I can't remember who it was that we assigned to that, but they went to who wrote the proposal and, chatted with them about it and explained this to them. And they said, oh, there's lots of other needs. We'll come up with something else, of course. So they came up, and this fire department did a little differently. They found something they need. They wrote a proposal that had a dollar amount because it was something they were going to buy. And they did this 3 times. And so we took the 3 of them and totaled it up was $23,600 for a backup repeater, digital radios for its older engines, and some life safety equipment. The Underhill Central School PTO had, more than one proposal for different things. But one of the ones that we really liked was some upgrading of the whole property and the gardens around the property, and improving it and improving the access for handicapped children and things like this, which we looked at all the things they were doing. We put it together. It was $22,000, and that's what we're recommending. Another proposal they had was for new playground equipment, which was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we did not approve that one. So another thing I learned was that there's a Brewster River Mountain Bike Club that has put some trails in the perimeter of the Underhill Central School property, both for bike riding and for walking. And there's a lot of needs to these trails, both upgrades, extending them, making them handicap accessible, a whole variety. They put in a really good proposal describing the needs. They also said that they have, unrelated to this proposal, they hope to extend the paths also as they do some fundraising and stuff. And so this project that they put in was $18,000, and we are recommending that for that project. There was a proposal put in to finish the digitizing of town records. The committee looked at this and said, it's time. We've heard about this for a long time. It started, some members did not understand what had been done and what hadn't been done, but as soon as we got all the details and everything, the $13,000 to complete this job is being recommended. The Mills Riverside Park Board, the board had given a lot of thought about what kind of proposals to put in for ARPA funds, knowing that they could, probably get some from Underhill and some from Jericho. And of course, the first one that somebody brought up was, a new covered bridge, which would have shot both of our amounts. But the one that they decided on proposing, and they only put in the one proposal, was to repair and upgrade both the entrance and exit roads and the parking area, and that area, that grassy area, from the parking area up to where the farmer's market is, where there's a bunch of bumps and drop-offs and everything. So they got a proposal to rebuild that whole thing and actually extend the parking area. The 40% of that project is $6,500, which is what we're recommending. The Essex Jericho Underhill food shelf, when they heard about the ARPA funds, they wanted to put something in, and they asked their treasurer to come up with an idea. And she was having trouble of coming up with just a one-time number, because it's just an ongoing thing. I mean, you need food all the time. So what she did is put in a proposal for what they think their shortfall in their budget is going to be this year. And which was $11,500. Since this is 3 towns, the committee decided that we would recommend 1/3 of that amount, or $3,800 in our recommendation for the food shelf. The Browns River Middle School PTO, called Bragg, is proposing to build a 9-hole disc golf course on the perimeter of the Browns River Middle School property. This is one of those things, one of those proposals, when I first looked at it, I said, so a disc golf course, huh? They have done a lot of work in coming up with this idea, both on how to build it, what to build, and what kind of usage it would get. And that was sort of, I think, the thing that really convinced us that we wanted to approve this, was that the usage is not just for the students at Browns River or to use during the day, but for committee, or for all residents to use. And I don't remember the numbers they gave, but they gave some numbers that really sounded very good. Again, this is a project that they are planning to get done yet this summer to have it in use. And so we're recommending a $3,000 of our 40% share with Jericho. So that's it. That's the 14 proposals that we're making. And if you're looking at chart 2, you can see that the numbers are down there. You can see some of the projects that got fairly high rankings that just didn't meet getting funded. So we were funding things around 2.5, I guess, an average ranking of 2.5. That was what we were looking at. Each of those, has its pluses and minuses. And I forgot one, didn't I? I forgot the generator for the town garage. This was also one that came in at right at this cutoff point in our ranking, but it was one of the longer discussions because of many people saying, well, if it's so important, why hasn't it been already purchased? If it's so important, why hasn't it been put into the budget? If it's so important, these kind of questions, and of which, did any of us have an answer to that? No, but that did. So finally we talked to Jen about how much money is needed for this that, isn't already allocated, which was $10,000. And so that was
because we have the reserve.
That was turned out to be the last proposal that we're recommending. So again, the sidewalk, number one, we feel this is what people have. I will tell you that when people ask me about what we were recommending and everything, I can't believe how many people would say, how about a sidewalk? Or when we got close to the end, I said, the sidewalk is going to get some money, and all they say is, good, it's about time, that kind of thing. However, one of the concerns was there is a time limit about when the money has to be spent, and also what that means to spend the money. So what we are recommending is that we put in the $192,000 into a fund to start, not to start the process because a lot of starving, but hopefully to jumpstart things again. And that a similar committee to what you formed for what we did be formed to sort of oversee the sidewalk project. So if people want to, number one, if people want to ask, what's the status of the sidewalk, they have somebody to go to. Number two, that they have a committee that is dedicated to finding funding and finding all the stuff that needs to be done. And number three is to actually, get a shovel in the ground and get something built. We were hoping that we could find a section of it that we could actually fund that could get built. And it sounds good on paper, but boy, we couldn't find that with the amount of money that we had. So along those lines, we think Nick Atherton would be a perfect person from the town to be on that committee, and that there should be 2 members from this committee that are appointed to that committee, since we have done a lot of work on it. I talked to you about the Jericho Selectboard wanting to decide if they want to go along with the shared projects. Another topic that came up is, so how are we going to tell people that they are getting money, or they're not getting money. And, you know, there are some discussions like this that go on and on because there's no good one answer to it. So the suggestion that we liked best was to come up with a one-page report to the town on what we have done and the 14 projects that we have agreed to fund. And that is what chart 3 is this letter that we think instead of writing a letter and saying, yay, you won, or you're getting $15,000 for your project, or I'm sorry, you're getting nothing, or something like this, that this goes to everyone and it just gets published on Front Porch Forum and on the website and things like that. So that's what that letter is. So finally, I will tell you that the opportunity to serve in this committee was great. And I know every other member thinks that too. We had a good time. It was a good mixture of people. It was people who really gave a lot of thought to these projects. And we think our recommendations are really good. And of course, we also think you ought to approve them all. And so in the approval process, there are these projects that want to get started and, you know, get built this summer, which means they have to, you know, get things purchased and stuff. So the sooner that we can get the check to them so that they can do that, the sooner that the town can really start making use of it. Questions?
First, I want to thank you for your comprehensive report. I value not only the final product, and I may have some questions about that, but I also value the methodology and the energy. So, and I have some thoughts about how the select board can proceed immediately and to get this done quickly. But first, I think I should move that we accept the report of the ARPA committee with thanks. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second that.
Is there discussion on that?
We are accepting the committee's report, but we are not accepting.
Correct.
We're not taking action on
We're
the
not
report.
accepting the itemization of the report. We're accepting, I mean, they're finishing their work.
Yeah, I understand.
And part of my discussion on this would be when we set out on this project and looked at this overwhelming thing, the three of us, we wanted some other eyeballs on it. That's my thought. And we wanted some other wisdom on it. And, you know, accepting the report and your work as a committee with thanks says that. And we will have to do our work now, our due diligence, and we will do that quickly. And I have a couple ideas of what we need to do right away. But do you have any?
So let me make sure I understand. By accepting the report,
We're just accepting the report of the committee. The committee is handing in their final
but we're not
duty.
necessarily chiming in on all the projects? Is that
Well, I think that once we get this motion, we can talk about
I
other
think
procedures.
just a bit of advice, maybe the proper thing to do would be to accept the report and dismiss the committee, right, from their duties, because so they're allowed to.
Getting a little ahead of ourselves.
Well, maybe we don't want to dismiss, but otherwise they'll have to keep meeting.
Right.
Okay.
They have given us a gift and we need to go with it. And it will take us a little bit of work since we've just seen it, you know, in the past week and a half because we had a visual of it and the discussion now. But
So
anyway,
I understand it now. We're accepting the report, but we're not taking action on
Correct.
the specific recommendations within the report.
Not yet.
Understood.
So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries to accept the report of the committee and their work with thanks is passed 3-0. Now, I have a couple things that I want to run by my colleagues. Two things I think we can do tonight. I think we need to immediately set up the cooperation with the Jericho Select Board and figure out that, because those are, I think, 3 items that are on that we need to do that. And time is of the essence, because we don't want them to give all their money away without knowing what we're doing and how we did it. They may have gotten the same proposal, I trust, from the fire department, the library, and the park district. And Browns River. So I think that we would need to, have Brad set up a time quickly with them so that we can address those mutual concerns.
Actually, I've kind of took the liberty of just feeling out some dates, and they are meeting next Thursday on the 20th. So if you wanted to meet then, they are available.
Well, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, and before we start to get together with the town of Jericho, I am very appreciative of Bill and your hard work of the committee and the hours that you have spent, compiling all of this. However, I am very interested to have, I think the next step for this body is to hold a public hearing. That now that the committee's report has been made and a recommendation has been made, I feel that now it is time for the public to have an opportunity to weigh in and hear exactly what we heard tonight in the public hearing. And once we've had an opportunity for the public to weigh in and for the select board to hear that public hearing, then we can take next steps. But I feel that time is of the essence, and I think that the next step would be for us to have a public hearing and to invite the committee members to be present for that public hearing and to hold that sometime within the next 30 days. So that would be my recommendation, and I would make a motion that we hold a public hearing to be determined within the next 30 days.
I think that's an excellent idea. I'll second that.
It's moved and seconded. Is there discussion?
Do I get to discuss?
I think that is, a good way to involve, although the public has had involvement, extensive involvement. And, it's not that I wouldn't see the public hearing as a way to challenge the committees, but just to invite them to reflect. And we are not in any obligation to do the committee's work over again because we have public input. But I can see, what you're saying.
My intent for inviting the public to weigh in is that this is an unbelievable grant opportunity that this town has not seen the likes of ever. And I feel that we have entrusted a committee of a diverse group of people to come together and to, weigh in and spend a lot of time doing what they've done. And I think that the residents now need to have an opportunity to see what we've seen tonight, hear from Bill, invite them to watch the video tonight, and, the possibility of asking some questions of the chair and some of the other committee members, and to hear what the public has to say, and then, go from there. I just think it's invaluable to us in our final decision-making process.
I would like to, in the discussion of this motion, invite Bill as the chair and Jen as a staff member of the committee to react and comment.
That's fine with me. I would invite all the committee members, but I have no problem with Bill being the point as the chair and Jennifer as the staff liaison to ask them to be present when we decide on that meeting date and time.
No, I mean right now, on the motion, discussion of the motion. I want to invite their comment.
I welcome that. That's fine.
Yeah.
Can I speak? Sure. I just wanted to say that I don't disagree. Obviously, you guys can decide on whatever you choose, but I will say that we've had how many meetings? 9 meetings. Every meeting has had a video. Every meeting I have done extensive minutes, several, some 3, 4, 5 pages long. We've invited public comment to every meeting. We sent out mailers to every single resident in Underhill. People have had 6 months to bring us their proposals, bring us their ideas, bring us their critiques, criticisms, feedback. We're now at the point where we need to make decisions. So I feel like it's overkill to now have a public hearing because I feel like we've invited the public. I can tell you that we have done more than any other town I know. I mean, Jericho, I'm not saying that they did the right thing, but it's common knowledge. They went and bought a piece of property. The select board went and bought a piece of property without even soliciting any feedback from their residents. So I feel like we've really invited everyone to have a voice in this. And ad nauseum. I mean, and so I feel like trying to do that in another 30 days from now and putting off these decisions may actually put us, you know, in a disadvantage as far as all these projects that have timelines and, you know, and that the committee is recommending. So that's just my comment on that.
That's a helpful comment. Given the public involvement and the public invitation. And it's ongoing because those videos of the meetings and the minutes, they're, you know, on record and people can access them. Do you have any thoughts, Bill?
So when you first ask for volunteers to come and do this, I was really confused about how this, you know, what the process is for dividing up the money. And in doing some checking and talking to people from other towns around the state, of which I still have friends, you know, that are down in other places, almost every one of them said that they were upset that the only input that was given to spending ARPA money was with the select board, and the select board was making the final decision. I did find a couple towns where they did set up a committee like this. In fact, I talked to a couple of the chairs about what they were doing and everything. And they both said that this was a great idea. They really liked the idea because it did get people involved. And I think that's exactly what we talked about first, getting people involved. We went out and asked what you would like to do. If you look at the postcard, it said, how would you spend $600,000? And I will tell you that many times I thought, holy smoly. I always thought that if you were super rich, it'd be no problem at all to give away money. But you know, it's not just, you know, you don't just want to give it to anything. So the fact that you went to the effort to not only set up this committee, but to set up such a diverse group of people on the committee, and that the committee members did not just want to go out and make the decisions themselves. We actually went out and asked for these proposals. We reviewed the proposals. We checked on the proposals, and we made recommendations not only based on all of that, but you know, what we determined was some of the most asked for items, i.e., what you would get at a public comment. So to me, to come now and have people come in and saying, why the hell did you give $50,000 here when you could have given it there. I don't know what you do after that.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? People say, why are you giving it to project A instead of to project C? How come this didn't get any money? How are you going to make a decision then? How's that going to help your decision at all? You see a couple people come in and they say, I don't like the fact that such and such got this much money. So what are you going to do? Take it away? I don't know. I don't agree with the idea at all.
Can I jump in? I mean, I'll respond on this. I look at a public hearing as the bow on top of all the work that you've done, just to pull it all together. It's a last chance to say, okay, here's the end of the process. This is what came to the top. These are the recommendations, and just have one last opportunity to discuss. I don't anticipate having a bunch of people line up and say, why didn't you give my project more money, and why'd you give this project that? I really don't see it like that. There may be some discussion around the edges, but I look at it more as wrapping the whole thing up in a nice, neat bow, having the process one last time for feedback of this is what came to the top. And I look at your proposal in this report as spot on. You know, I have some questions about it. And, you know, those might be things you might hear at a public hearing, like for the Energy Committee, if we were to do a solar project, you know, would it make sense to do it out back here or another place? Those are the kind of questions I would anticipate. But I look at this as not disrespecting the work that you've done, but just announcing to the town, this is what's risen to the top. And as a select board, this is what we're going to vet and make a decision on. And really wrapping it up in a very, to me, in a really fully transparent way. And I really like the idea of it personally. And I'm not disrespecting any of the work that you guys have done. It's tremendous what you've done, and I am really happy and pleased with your report.
I couldn't have said it better. And Bill, I think the world of you, and I feel that the public should have an opportunity to hear the report that you gave us today. And I don't think it's an opportunity for the public to necessarily challenge the hard work of the committee. I feel that it's an opportunity for them to hear the methodology and the ideology of how this came about and how you got to your finished product that you're recommending to the board. And before we spend $600,000 on that, I think I feel that we owe it to the residents on, you know, this is what we're presented with, and they would have an opportunity one last time to, you know, say their piece as it relates to that. So I am going to support the motion to move forward with that.
Hearing this discussion has been valuable. And one thing that got clarified for me is the extensive public involvement in the whole process. And it wasn't like you folks went off to an island.
No.
And you know, you invited everybody to come on that wants to come on, and left a record, a very clear and concise record. So on the basis of that, you know, I think people have had an opportunity, and I will vote against the motion because I think it is repetitious, because this report is also available. I mean, people knew that it was on, they could have come. This could be like a public hearing, and it also is going to be on the public record. Somebody can watch the video and hear everything. So I have, on the basis of the discussion, I will vote against the motion. So are you ready to call a question?
Sure.
All in favor of having a public hearing to address the ARPA committee report, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? No. We need to do a roll call vote. Dan Steinbauer, no.
Bob Stone, aye.
Patty Richards, yes.
The motion carries 2-1.
I just think it needs some clarification for the minutes. Are you talking about a public hearing of the select board or a public hearing of both the select board and the ARPA committee? Because
Yes.
they'd have to be warned duly.
Of both.
Okay, so you'd have a quorum for the ARPA committee, quorum for the select board, public hearing.
Correct.
And,
That would take place within the next 30 days.
well, I think it needs to be quicker than that.
Well, I don't know what other people's schedules are. I don't know what the availability is of the venues or anything like that, but that can be, I'm sure, expedited if need be.
Could we do it on the 27th in
I'm-
conjunction, just as an idea, to move it along?
I will be out of town from the 22nd through the 29th or 30th. So unless you're planning on doing something next week, I will be unavailable the last week in April. So we could potentially get together, if you can't meet next week, the first week in May.
What about the 20th? What
Next-
did we
next
say about
Thurs-
the 20th?
Next Thursday,
Yeah,
I could do that.
I can make that too.
We'll have to see ARPA committee.
What was the date you said?
The 20th next week?
yes, because as the chair of the select board, I won't be doing any presentation at this hearing because I don't really want to talk about it until the select board has an opportunity to do that. So I guess we're asking Bill, unless one of you want to do the presentation, as you heard it from Bill, we're asking Bill to do a redo. But I'm just looking at what would the hearing be comprised of?
Well, are we, I feel that the purpose of the hearing is to discuss, to present the information that was presented tonight. And if we need to play back a video, so be it. But it would give the opportunity for the residents of the town of Underhill to have public input into the committee's report. And it would give the select board an opportunity to hear from the residents, those that wish to participate on the report. Because the residents have not had an opportunity to see until this evening the ARPA committee's final report and recommendation to the select board. So that would be the purpose of, in my mind, of what the public hearing would be about.
How many committee members do you have? Seven. In order, you need 5 for a quorum.
Well, why don't we give a couple options? How about Wednesday at 6 or Thursday at 6?
The 19th or the 20th of next week?
Yeah.
I have a regional planning commission meeting that night, but I suppose
Which
Jennifer
night?
could on the 19th.
I can't do the 19th either, unless we were done by 7:30.
I have another meeting I'm supposed to attend, but I could make this the priority.
Just a question, do we need to have the full ARPA committee attend, or can we have Bill do the presentation essentially and represent the ARPA committee's findings to make this more simple?
Well, just a minute, this is your public hearing. This isn't ours.
Yeah, I think.
So I think if you want to have a public hearing, you want to hold the public hearing.
I'd like to have a recess and go into executive session, please.
What is the criteria for the executive session? Because we're limited
To
on
discuss a
that.
personnel matter.
Okay. What is the motion?
I move that the select board go into executive session.
Is there a second? Hearing no second, we are back at the table.
Hey, Bill, if you're uncomfortable redoing the presentation, I think that we can make the recommendations, we can put the recommendations forward as to what you presented and hopefully do our best to characterize what you've presented. I would like to give people an opportunity to hear about a solar project in the back of town hall. Maybe the neighbors here would like some input into that. That may be something that folks want to give feedback on, or at least hear about. Like that's a tangible one specifically that you do want to have some due process along.
So you expect somebody here that's going to speak to that?
I'm just saying that we can put forward the 22 proposals that you are recommending in your report. If you're uncomfortable presenting at the meeting on the 20th.
Well, I guess I'm a little taken aback. I will say, what if I was to bring up questions about specific projects that were recommended tonight?
Well, we will have to do that as the select
Right, we
board.
could either do it now, or we could do it at the public hearing, or we could do it at a future select board meeting. But I feel that there's going to come a point in time when questions are going to be asked, and that the committee should make themselves available to hopefully present in more detail and answer questions that may be put forth.
The other thought,
Can I just interject and say that as the staff member, I am the liaison between the select board and the committee. I feel very strongly that the committee has put in an inordinate amount of time as volunteers for this committee. Bill has spent more hours than anyone I've ever seen putting together this presentation and redoing it as late as this morning. Thank you very much. I feel that I have all the detail of every single proposal in my office. They've all been scanned. I have that. I can speak to those things at your hearing. I don't think that we need to ask the ARPA committee to come. Unless they want to come, they can. But the committee itself didn't come up with these proposals. The contact person on the list is the person that brought the proposal forward. And I think I can probably help answer any of those questions or get answers to those questions for you.
I think we hold this as a select board meeting, and we'd love to have the committee, the ARPA committee, the full committee here. Bill, we'd like to have you present, but if you're uncomfortable presenting or can't present, then I think we go ahead and make the information available. And Jen, if you can answer some specific questions, if anybody asks.
I can also put all those proposals in their detail on the website so that if people wanted to review them and come up with questions, they can. But I just want to caution you that, let's just say you approve these projects and then there's questions about how it's executed. You can always say, well, the people around here don't want that, or it makes more sense to do a solar project somewhere else. That's your discretion as a select board. You have the ultimate discretion as to where this money is spent. So I think the committee, again, has put forth their very detailed, well thought through, spent a lot of time, brought these to your attention. And I feel like their work's done. So hopefully I can.
what I thought the select board could do is do a turnaround. We have the committee report, we have all the data, and we can study that. And if we need more input from Jen as the staff person, we could get that. And we could, make decisions at an open select board meeting based on the report. And I thought we could do a quick turnaround, but you're not going to be here for the next meeting, will you, Bob?
I will be out of town from April
So we could do it.
April 22nd through April 30th.
Right. We could, do this. I mean, that's just a thought. If we didn't have a public hearing, or we could call it a public hearing when we make decisions. And do that on what? May 13th and May 11th, I think it is. But, that's just a thought. But I think that meanwhile, it doesn't hurt to preemptively talk to Jericho so we know what we're talking about. And also, I think that we could authorize the establishment of, I think the sidewalk committee is going to be a big job. And I think we don't want to waste time doing that. I'm not sure what we can get done this summer, but contractors would be tight. But I'm not sure what would fit the criteria given the timeline. But we need other people to work on that kind of stuff. But, we could call that a public hearing, when we are also public about where we stand on things.
I guess I just want to be clear. I am available until the 21st of April. I will make myself available to hold a public hearing for the residents of the town of Underhill to provide comment on the ARPA committee report. Once I've had an opportunity to hear from the public, then I'd be absolutely willing to continue to take future steps. But for me, as a member of the select board, I would like to have the public have an opportunity to say anything if they so desire as it relates to this. So,
In that, the ARPA committee could be present given the recording of the report. And that would be your presence.
It is
because you already did it once.
It's a public meeting. So
right.
April 20th.
How about the 19th?
I can't do the 19th unless we're done by 7:15. You have a 7:30.
I think the 20th makes the most sense.
Okay, we could do that.
All right, set it for 6 o'clock. So I'm just going to warn it as a select board public hearing. We'll work with Jennifer, get the documents up, get as much information up, put it out on Front Porch Forum.
And the only quorum we have to deal with
Select
is the
board
select
quorum.
board,
Yep.
not the ARPA committee. It's not a joint meeting.
Right. So it'll just be a public hearing of the select board.
It's an invitation. My thought is not to grill, why this and not this, because the committee's already done that work. But it's to report and get their reaction. Thumbs up, whatever. That's my impression of what this public hearing would be. And if we present the written material and the part of the recording of Bill, your comprehensive report, that could be a good way to present it. So we nailed down the 20th?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
6 o'clock.
Okay, 6 o'clock.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Next on the agenda is Green Up Day. I think Karen is here from the Conservation Commission. So Green Up Day is Saturday, May 6th, and we received the bags today, and they're available around town. So, but before putting out a public notice, thought we'd get your thoughts about what we want to do.
I thought last year was terrific. I would propose we do a repeat of what was done last year at the town garage.
I agree.
And I think Karen has some additions too that the Conservation Commission would like to do.
Well, she's here. Let's hear from her.
Yeah.
Hi, Karen, welcome.
Hi.
I'd like
Thank
to
you.
hear what you guys have proposed.
Okay. Some of it has to do with working with some of the other, or partnering with some of the other committees that are maybe temporary or not, to make it a fun event. So first off, though, I've spoken to Nate Guay, and he is going to provide 3 dumpsters from at your disposal. And I guess he's going to be coordinating that with the town. So whether it's Nate or Brad, but he is planning to do that. Given his suggestion and our thoughts from last year, we're going to get the Green Up Day bags out early so that in the event that we have 3 or 4 inches of snow like we did 2 years ago, people will have the opportunity prior to Saturday to have done some of the cleanup of the roads. So I think that would be very encouraging for them. And that's already happened. Some of the bags have already been distributed at Wells Corner Market, of course, the town. I think maybe Brad was going to look into the outside the fire department in the flats for that as well. So the other things, pardon? You have any, okay, questions? So,
No, I was just saying, Karen, that I kept them at Phil's at the Jacobs Family Market just because they've always traditionally been there. So, and
okay.
Phil, there's a sign right on, it says Underhill residents only.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you. Yeah. So the other things we're going to do that are similar to last year, but maybe a little bit broader intake is that, again, we're going to have information on the black bears jumping worms, which have received a lot of publicity from the recently with our presentation that was made 2 weeks ago. The wild parsnip and the monarch butterflies. They are endangered in the state of Vermont. And so that is something that we'll have information on that. And then the final thing is about the ticks. And we're going to be really hoping to have a display and everything because in addition to Lyme disease, now the babesiosis is epidemic in the state of Vermont. And anaplasmosis is also on the rise, and that has their effects of that can be horrible. So we're going to be focusing on that. Betsy Chapik is going to be leading some tours into the Crane Brook area and pointing out some of the natural facts and trees. And then Sandy Wilcox, I believe, is going to be talking about how to measure a big tree and demonstrating that for the big tree contest that the Natural Resources Inventory and Mapping Committee have had. They had it last year and we're doing it again this year. I think, is that about it? I think that's everything that I've talked about. I haven't firmed up plans yet with the rec committee, but something they might be part of this too, if this is okay with you all.
I'm okay with it. I guess that we would just need to come up with a plan as far as where parking may occur. I assume this is going to be on like a Saturday, or a weekend day. So it's just a matter of making sure that there's an area that's okay for people to park when they participate in that stuff. Because there'd be, people come in to drop off whatever they're going to drop off for the Green Up Day, and then, maybe stick around to see some neighbors and friends. Maybe if you're going to do the hot dog, water type of thing again. But if you're going to be offering off-site, walks to the Cream Brook, just want to make sure that we have sufficient parking for, people to, and I'm sure we can accommodate it. It's just a matter of coordinating with Nate and others to make sure that we have that kind of mapped out.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well last year. There was, it seemed like people were coming and going and they stayed for what they wanted to see and then left. It wasn't as if they stayed for, let's say, 2 hours. So I think that the parking situation, the ebb and flow will be okay. But we can work with Nate on designated areas if he wants, if you desire.
I think it worked out pretty well at the town garage last year, having a central thing, having the cookout. Brad did a wonderful job with that. And also the dumpsters there where people could bring things. It was a community kind of a thing. And there were some walks on the trail then. And, it seemed sufficient. It's a big area. People would be able to park. And I don't know if we need to determine where, do we have any money in the budget for Cleanup Day, or are we using the CSWD funding that we have been able to use for the dumpsters?
Yeah, so I checked with CSWD and we have a community cleanup fund. And currently we have 5,000 in that cleanup fund. So if we wanted to, like last year, we did the dumpsters, and Nate Guay at your disposal was very kind and provided 3 15-yard roll-offs and charged us $500. So we could get reimbursed from that with the blessing of the Paul Roos and Dan, who are the representatives for Underhill for the CSWD. They have to actually submit something in writing that they're in support of that. The CSWD money wouldn't be used for the barbecue, obviously, but that could just come out of the contingency fund like it did last year. Just go to Costco and keep it minimal. I don't think I spent $100.
I would certainly bless the dumpsters. The thing about the CSWD, it's a very generous thing, but you need to use it because it gets replenished. And if you don't use it, you lose it. And I think 5,000 is the maximum, the ceiling.
It is.
So it is a good opportunity to do that as a part of Green Up Day and the community. And there may be some other ways that we want to use it, but we're talking about Green Up Day, and that would be the most appropriate use.
And not to get too far off topic, but Paul Roos did mention last year about having maybe a shred day. So like Shred X that could come with a truck and people could bring their private papers and they get them shredded right on site. So I left a message with them today, Shred X, just to get a rough price. But it's something in the future we might want to think about. But
yeah, we wouldn't want to mix that up with Green Up Day.
It's not, no, definitely not.
Yeah,
Definitely
but
not.
but that would be a really good opportunity.
Just something, a different event, that's all.
Good, so we don't really need a motion for any finances, but
I just wanted to make one comment about promoting education about tick-borne disease. I completely and fully endorse that. We lost 2 dogs this past year to anaplasmosis from kidney failure related. So it is here. It's very local. And the ticks, we found 4 ticks on our dogs in the last 3 days. So ticks are here.
Thanks.
so we have a plan. Everybody knows
Yeah,
what to do.
I'll
and
work
we can
with
move
Karen
on.
and Nate Sullivan, Nate Guay, and we'll put it all together.
Excellent.
May 6th. I don't know if we want to set hours, but I guess we can talk about that offline.
Okay,
Thank you, Karen.
you're welcome. All right. Good night. Thank you.
Thanks. So it's 7:20 and we've got town contracts and that was in your packet. There's a little summary sheet Amanda put together on the front, but basically we have 5 renewals. Is SA001, the Parisi property, 94 Irish Settlement, Murphy property, Maycumber number 4, the Horner property, CO 18, the Bartlett property, and Vermont Route 15, 853, which is Minicelli. And then we could do it as presented, the whole thing, but those are the 5 renewals. There's no takeovers, no new, no ineligible. There is one withdrawal, is CH 350T, the Rawson Farm is withdrawing from and Amanda is here and if you had any questions, but these are typical. She vets them out, the renewals.
One comment I would make, and I don't know if my memory is poor, but I think Amanda really stepped up by putting maps. I don't remember seeing maps before. And it really gives some clarity as to what's happening. Amanda, is that new?
Since I've been here, it's not new. 5 years I've been doing the map, Stan.
Okay, it's my memory then. But it was very well put together, and reading through the whole thing, I have clarity. I could put a motion on the table to accept the
5 renewals and the 1 withdrawal as presented, I guess.
Right. For the 2023 town land contracts. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
So for clarity, we're talking about the Parisi, Murphy, Horner, Bartlett, and Minicelli properties
As renewals.
as renewals, and acknowledging the withdrawal of the Rawson property on Silly Hill.
Yes.
Correct.
Any other discussion? All in favor of accepting that report and those applications?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? This motion carries 3-0.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda.
You're welcome. Have a good night, guys.
So next thing on the agenda is a application to place utilities in the right of way. It's on 137 Mountain Road. So basically that's just beyond, it's a new access and building permit that was granted just past where we turn around currently. And Bob Kennedy from Green Mountain Power submitted the proposal. I had asked some questions. I included that email, just kind of some thoughts that I thought you might, or some questions you might have. So all the lines are underground and will be in conduit, very heavy conduit, schedule 80 or something like that. The project involves a takeoff mid-span pole to be installed at the edge of the right-of-way. I know that Bob Kennedy went up with Nate and they measured 25 feet off the center line, so everything will be on the edge or on private property. The foundation for the pedestal will be set outside the right-of-way, beyond 25 feet from the center, as he said. And it's staked if you wanted to go look at it. But I've worked with Bob Kennedy for years in the private sector, and he's very well experienced, usually does a lot bigger projects than these, but Nate didn't see anything that concerned him either. So
Now, what is this a new dwelling that
Yes.
was approved?
So the Evans property, they subdivided a lot that was approved by the DRB. They gained an access permit that you all approved. And now it's just getting power up to where the house site is. So. And Nate made sure that they're going to go extra deep with it, just in case any ditching had to happen. It'll be in excess of 5 feet burial.
And Brad, is this typical that we see requests from?
Anything in, yeah, so
Utility?
typically, yeah, all utilities are, well, they're supposed to be going through the process. They're putting any utilities in the right of way. They're supposed to get permission from the select board unless they had a prior agreement in the past, like say the co-op, may have some blanket agreement, but this is the extension of an existing line underground, so.
There's no power above this?
No,
So how do they get to the power to the state park?
there's no power up there,
There's none at all.
not that I know of.
Oh, I thought they had power at the ranger station, no?
Possibly. There may be some kind of a spur line running off of,
I
maybe
can
off
imagine they
Harvey
wouldn't
Road
have
or
power at the ranger station,
something. I know.
in
I
the
don't-
bathrooms.
They did? They
Yeah,
do?
well, I think they have lights.
Huh.
I can't remember. Gotta go up there.
There's no poles going up the mountain road and there's no,
And this is all underground.
correct.
And I guess my only question is that if we authorize the right of way for one, if somebody else wanted to build a house, a property owner that's above this proposed lot, then I would assume that we would, accommodate someone else.
Yeah, exactly. And this is primary line, so they're going to work it out with however who pays for that, but that's not the town's issue. I would say that you're probably highly unlikely that any power would go too much further past this point because you're getting above the 1,500 foot mark. And there's no building above 1,500 feet.
Mhm.
So,
I'd move that we accept the right of way application as presented.
I'll second that. Any discussion further? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes carry this motion 3-0.
all right. And you had asked before about the computer quote. So Sherry has been working with the tech group and there's 2 proposals, one for a tablet and one for a laptop option. And in your packet, there's a quote spelling everything out. This does not include any software. So I'm still trying to get from the tech group a quote for what's called Office 365. So right now we're on Microsoft Exchange service, which is kind of going by the way of the dodo bird these days. So Office 365 is they sell seats. So there's and it's a really pretty reasonable price. We get we get an Office package, Excel, Word, that sort of thing, and email. So it really expand our email addresses. Not that I'm advocating that every town employee should have an email address because it's pretty rare to see in that situation, but that's another subject. But I'm just saying that we could easily get this loaded up with a subscription for Excel and Word, that sort of thing. I think their preference was the tablet because that's what they said originally. Apparently that way they can bring it into the shop and take pictures or whatnot. It's a little bit more expensive than just the plain laptop.
I think the being able to take images would be an asset, not just look up stuff.
Right. Yeah, they like to, I think when they're maybe working on a engine product or something, or a engine issue or some kind of mechanical issue, they can take a picture, send it to the, the vendor, the dealer, maybe get some feedback.
So I'd move that we move forward with the tablet for the highway department, and I move that we not exceed $3,000. I know that the price is $2,300, but I feel that there may be software, and I think that we should buy a protective case for that tablet, so in case it gets dropped or pushed off a shelf or something like that, it is in a garage where, things happen, it's a working location that, protect that piece of equipment. So that's why I'd like to have a little cushion there for, programs and for a protective case for that. So I'd move that we spend up to $3,000 to buy the highway department a tablet.
And second that. Do you think that $700 is enough for the software?
Yeah, I think so. We can do the one, just a 1-year subscription is $300, I think, or not even.
Okay.
So it'd be enough to get them going. I think buy the case, like Bob said, and hard shell case or whatever.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing no noes. The ayes carry this motion 3-0.
So I think this is a point where you wanted to insert the job opening or the highway supervisor.
Right.
Part.
So it looks like we are now advertising for the open position for the road commissioner. And, it's unclear what steps we're going to take once applicants start to come in for that position. So that's why I wanted to bring that forward. I'd recommend that the applicants be sent to Brad, and then Brad presents those applicants to the select board, and then we would take action from there.
Okay, as they come in, I'll forward them off.
We can notify you of whether or not, we want to, conduct an interview or what action steps we would like to take.
You probably have to do that in a meeting because we'd have to, but we certainly get it on as they come in, I'll send them to you. And then at the following meeting, you can have an executive session, decide what you want to do.
So the concept of the recruiter is off the table?
Unless you want to, with the, I don't know if there's other recruiters. I mean, we could certainly, explore to see if there's other recruiters in the area that, we would potentially want to consider.
Okay, let me pull that question back and start with the other question first. Do we think we're going to have more activity with advertising the regular routes this time around than we did in prior months?
Do I think? I don't think. I don't think that. I think it's. I believe it's going to be wishful thinking that there's a lot of competition in my mind out there, and that I think that we are going to need to have some assistance. And I thought that the recruiter route it made a lot of sense. It feels like we should see what other available recruiters are out there beside the one that we initially went with.
I'm in full support of advertising. I think we should start to look for another recruiter and see if we can find somebody else to help us along.
Yeah, I think there were 4 in the immediate area that were available. One has already gone out of business that Jennifer had looked at. And then we have the one we used. There may be a couple more, but I can
just to dust that off and find out what's available. I think
if Jennifer could look to see what recruiting companies are out there and still in business, and that would, she would feel comfortable recommending to us to consider, that'd be great. in my mind.
But you're okay with the advertising? I mean, we decided to do
Yeah,
that.
I think the combination, throw out our fishing line
Exactly. Throw them all
and
out.
then find out who else can
Do
help us.
something.
Might be
I
surprised.
don't know how we determined, was it a bidding process why we selected the previous recruiter?
It just seemed like they were,
More professional, maybe?
well, or just more readily available. I think the others were more like real headhunters for executive type. They seemed like to do a little bit of, they were a little more diverse, I guess. Like that's
Okay.
when you get after a big headhunting firm, it's going to be expensive. And I don't know if that's really, I guess Jennifer recommended this firm that we did before because they had experience in that world. So.
Yeah, we might want to do that if we ever have to fill your shoes, Brad.
Don't say that.
Anyway, okay, sounds good.
Right on schedule.
We're on schedule. So I put together a little memo in your packet, but I want to add a couple more folks to that. But Trinity Schroeder is a new person in town, and I had sent you privately a letter she wrote just explaining a little bit about herself. But she's a very, very interested in the monarch butterflies and seems like to be a great addition to the Conservation Commission, and that's for a term of 4 years. And we could take them one at a time if you'd like. So this is Conservation Commission. I'd send it to you in a confidential email.
Right. Very good. I move that we accept Trinity Schroeder for a term of 4 years on the Conservation Commission.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
I think she'd make a great addition.
Indeed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries 3-0.
So while staying on the Conservation Commission, Lori Graham seeks reappointment. This will be another 4 years for Lori. She's currently the secretary and also another great addition.
Move that we accept Lori and appoint her for another 4-year position onto the Conservation Committee.
Second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0.
And then an announcement that Lori Golodetz is stepping off from the Planning Commission, or the Conservation Commission. So, but Trinity will be taking her place. So.
Who is that?
Amy Golodetz.
Oh, that's right. I think we did that already.
I think we may have, yeah. I'm not
Yeah,
sure,
we
but I
accepted that.
accepted her resignation, perhaps. I thought I'd just stick it in there.
Could you, can we task you with drafting a letter for us to sign, thanking her for her years of service, serving the town of Underhill?
Absolutely. Development Review Board. Karen McKnight and Mark Green would like to re-up for another term of 3 years on the Development Review Board.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. By a vote of 3-0, Karen and Mark are reappointed.
And we have Penny Miller and Mark Hamlin would like to re-up for a term of 1 year as alternates to the DRB. So they're not full members, but they're just alternates in case someone can't make it.
I'd move that we accept both Penny and Mark to 1-year terms on the DRB.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Penny and Mark are appointed by unanimous vote, 3-0.
All right. 7:40, and we're on to the Pine Ridge Stormwater proposal. And I included this in the packet last time, but I was a little unclear whether, so basically just to rehash this, this is a subdivision that was larger than 10 lots. So it has an Act 250 permit associated with it. So we have over 10 lots with an Act 250 permit, and the town actually owns the roadway. So we own the road in fee title, and we are associated with the Pine Ridge homeowners in a stormwater discharge permit, 3-acre stormwater discharge permit. And the permits now are going from what's called a 910 permit to a 950. It's the 5-year renewal. We do not, this permit will expire in July. We do not want it to expire at all. And so basically I reached out to Krebs and Lansing. It's a firm we've used here before. And they gave us an estimate of $1,200, and that is for both the town highway and the homeowners themselves. So basically it's almost like a 70-30 split. So you would take the impervious area, so the impervious surface of the roadway, and then the impervious soil surface of the lots, and we could come up with a proration like that to say, oh, we're responsible for this part of the permit, they're responsible for that part of the permit. But I recommend that that you approve the proposal so we can get it, or authorize Dan to sign the proposal so we can get them on board and get it done by July.
Do we have an agreement with the homeowners association on splitting the cost already?
No, we don't, but I would propose, I just think that, I think in the past, they've paid for most of it. I think in the past it was volunteer. We've never hired an engineering firm, which Mike Weisel, I think, did it for free the last time. But this is serious business, and we need to have, it just can't be favors or whatnot. We need to hire an engineering firm that has professional liability and have it on record. It's my opinion. We should.
So I move that we authorize Dan to enter into an agreement with Curbs and Lansing not to exceed $1,200 to deal with the Pine Ridge Road issue before us.
A friendly amendment to your motion. It says $1,200 plus mileage, so I assume there would be some mileage fees.
Up to $1,500.
I'll second that.
Use your bicycle.
Pedal fast. Bring the briefcase.
And then I can propose the, if you guys are, if think that's a logical split, you know, splitting the impervious.
Logical.
And then we have the renewal application of 240, which we could split that.
So they've never had to pay anything before because.
Well, because it's been favors and we're going to have another situation like this too with Mount Vista coming up in another year. So it's just, I think it's time to get accountable here and have professionals.
So the homeowners are.
Yeah, I met with John Coyer and Barbie, and yeah, they were very happy, and they just their first pass. They need to come together as a group and talk about this, but
will you report back once you've had that?
We talked about the split.
Yeah,
sure.
Once that's codified.
Sure.
Just so we know that.
Let's just get, the important thing is get the signed contract back, get on the agenda, because.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes carry this motion 3-0.
All right, and so this is really part of probably a longer discussion, but I just wanted to let you know on kind of where things stand. So if you remember, we applied for a structures grant for Bridge 7, Pleasant Valley Road.
Yep.
And in that, we said, if necessary to secure the grant, that Bridge 7, that the town would exchange the structures grant that we got for Mountain Road. So I heard back from Jim Coda, and I've been keeping Trevor Squirrel, our representative, in the loop on this too, because he's in appropriations. But basically, Jim Coda from District 5 says that basically the state can exchange grants like that. However, currently we stand 19th in line out of 29 towns for a grant this year. If we gave back the $200,000 grant, it would change our ranking from 12th to 29th. From 19th to 12th. It looks like it's possible we could get this grant this year. It is possible, but it depends on the applications that come in. But he said he's probably, depending on how much each town is asking for, he's only going to be allowed to award 6 to 8 structures grants this year. Okay, so, but the 12th ranking would hold. So next year we would be a shoe-in because we would be in that 6 range. And I discussed this with Cricket, and I don't think you should make a decision tonight. Kurt's gone to Hawaii, but I think it's only fair to let him weigh on this. But Jim was under the same opinion that I'm under and that Cricket's under, is give that grant money back. If we have to do a repair on Harvey Road in the next few years, we can. It's not going to cost us a fortune. It can stand for a while. It's not in the shape that Pleasant Valley is in. And I'm afraid, I know you'd like to do all of it, but the money between, if you committed to do the Harvey Road project and the Pleasant Valley Road project, you're just talking a lot of money, a serious lot of money. I think it's a conversation. I think it should be a whole separate meeting. We have long-term debt now, long-term outstanding debt that's approaching $1 million. Tack another $1 million or $1.5 million on it, we're talking serious debt load, and then it kind of freezes you up. We've done it all. That's all we can do. Then what if something else comes down the line? So Jim seemed to think, he said a lot of towns don't like to give money back, but a lot of towns shouldn't. Even if you get a grant award, right? We get a grant award, it doesn't always make sense to take it because we have new information now. But I don't want you to think about, I just wanted to report on what he said. He did say, he said you could put a second structures grant together and ask for like $50,000 to $75,000 to maybe do some temporary repairs on the Bridge 7. Cricket is not in favor of that. She thinks once you start to touch that bridge, it's just going to fall apart, and then you've got bigger problems on your hands. So anyway, more to come, but the structures grants are in there. The paving for Pleasant Valley is in there, which we're hopefully going to get. And then the structures grant, you never know if Trevor can work some magic in appropriations or.
Yeah, I would like to have Kurt come in, but I'd also like to hear from Jennifer in terms of our debt level and get a little bit more information on long-term debt, so we have a better frame.
So that you can look in the town report to see our long-term liabilities right now, but remember that we're adding another $350,000 in long-term debt because of the excavator and the trailer. So we're out $1 million. And then there'll be another truck next year. It just stacks up. Anyhow, but that's a different conversation. And then along the same lines on Bridge 7, I did get a call from Scott French. They understand why the road, or, you know, the Frenches, where the Frenches live, everybody does, I think, just south of Bridge 7. And they totally understand, you know, why you decided to post the bridge. They're requesting, though, if they could get permission to, if they were working on a VTrans project where they had to head north, if they could cross the bridge empty just to get to their work. And I'll explain a little bit later. They don't want to go across the bridge loaded. So they have two different types of vehicles. They have like a tractor and a trailer, like a long setup. So their truck weighs 20,000 pounds, and we posted the bridge at 24,000. And the trailer weighs 20,000 pounds, but they're not all going to be on the bridge at the same time. You know, the truck is going to cross over, then the trailer is going to catch over. So the axles it'll work out so that truck's okay legally. They have triaxle trucks, however, that are 28,000 pounds. So they're 4,000 pounds over what we posted it at. And they'd only like permission, and I could ask for them to submit something in writing. I'm just relaying the conversation I had from Scott. They don't want to make unnecessary trips there. They just want to go across. If VTrans calls them for a paving project to head north, it's an extra to go around 15. I think it must be 16, 17 miles extra.
Where do they come from?
No, they'd have to still go around.
They're about
and then
3/4 away down Pleasant Valley Road before you get to the town
Talking
line.
about-
Take it and come out this way.
So,
yeah, but they're right on the south end.
I see.
You know where they are. So they'd have to come all the way back to here, go up Irish
So
Settlement.
they would have to really double back.
That's they'd have to double back quite a bit.
They did Irish Settlement, it's probably 4 miles.
Well, it's 5 miles from where French's are to here. And then I'd say it's another 7 miles up there. So,
Still, okay.
you know, it's just at the price of fuel these days. But if you want me to get something in writing from them, or if me to reach out to Cricket, I just wanted to bring it to your attention and see. And I
Well, I
appreciate
think reaching out to
Scott.
Cricket would be good. I don't want to approve things that she wouldn't put her imprimatur on.
And then along those lines too, I got a correspondence here from the Vermont Agency of Transportation about this very subject. They are going to be posting emergency vehicle weight limits. So they realize that there's a lot of these bridges that have maximum weight limits. But they've said, and I could forward you this, I just barely got it today, but they realize the need for emergency vehicles to cross. So this is a new sign that they're going to be posting on our bridges that has a single axle weight of 12 tons, tandem axle weight of 26 tons, and a gross weight of 43 tons. So if a tanker, a fire truck tanker has got to go across, and they're going to be using the load ratings and sign installation, or the load ratings that they had previously calculated, the inspection report. So, and again, this is only in emergency situations, but I'll forward this off so you can learn more about it. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. And I don't know about the Frenches, if you want me to just follow up with Cricket and see what she thinks and revisit it next time, or what's your feeling on it?
well, I think we need to be consistent with whoever is coming forward with the request, whether it's the Frenches or anybody else that, you know, is in a similar type situation where that's their livelihood, and, you know, it makes a lot of sense for them to try to go across that bridge. And but I think we need to try to do our part to protect the town's asset and, we understand that, it's not in the best of shape. So I think that when we get a request like this, I think that makes some sense to send it to our bridge engineer and have her, look at it and then make a recommendation back to the board for us to make a decision on.
Yeah.
But if anybody comes forward, I feel like we need to treat everybody the same way, is that, regardless if it was the Frenches or, ABC 1, 2, 3, it makes no difference whether they're a resident or not. We're going to take the request and then have them bring it to Cricket, and then Cricket would make a recommendation to the select board based upon, she knows the most about that bridge.
Sounds good. And I do
I
feel
agree.
for their situation, it's a little different than most everybody's, I think. I did follow a suburban propane truck right over it this morning. I'm sure, I don't know what, propane's pretty heavy. But of course they're exempt, fuel trucks are exempt from all these, as are sap trucks, as are milk trucks, unfortunately. So, okay, I'll do that. Sounds like a plan.
And if we could try to do that as expeditiously as possible for
Yes.
them or anybody.
Nope, anybody, yeah, exactly.
I don't think that, if Cricket says, okay, I don't think we need to come back to the select board on it. Because that's what we're wanting.
Okay, so you're okay with,
I would be okay with it. If
Okay.
Cricket
I'm
gives
okay
the
with it.
affirmative, but if she says no or anything other than yes,
You wanna hear about it.
anything other than yes, then bring it back to here.
okay,
And then we.
I think we have
would wanna
consensus
hear-
on that, yeah.
sounds
Yeah,
good.
that's important.
Okay. And I trust the Frenches that they're just, again, they don't know their schedule, but in the off chance they gotta head north,
Sure.
most likely they'll be heading south. Bridge stuff. Okay, so we're back to the Roy. Roy Drive, Route 15 traffic concerns. So I don't know, you probably saw some Front Porch Forum posts about the speed on 15 back and forth. I reached out to Westford, and they did, at their select board meeting, they said that they felt like it was really an Underhill issue since curb cut was in Underhill. However, they would be willing to support anything that Underhill wanted to do. And I included the minutes from their meeting. And then I did reach out to VTrans, Jim Coda, because I wanted to know exactly what the procedure was. I included an email in your packet. But basically, if, they get quite a few requests to reduce speed limits on state roads. The standard response is the state reacts to town requests and recommends folks to ask the town if they agree. So the key thing here is that you agree that the speed limit needs to be reduced. But I guess I would just, a little bit of advice, I would hesitate to say that. It seems like it would be more appropriate to say, we've gotten feedback from our residents that the speed limit is too high. Therefore, we're asking the state to look into the speed limit. Doesn't that seem like it makes more sense?
Yeah, it makes more sense. I'm not willing to put my knowledge on the line about that, because while I respect the opinions of the people who live there, I don't really know. I traveled that road recently, and I looked, and I wasn't able to make any kind of a determination. And I think the speed limit, they're really tricky, because if they do a speed study, they're dealing with the 85th percentile.
Right, and they already have speed data. They're doing speed studies all the time. And as he said in his email, if the request does not meet criteria such as existing 85th percentile, current speed is too high, it may be more of an enforcement issue. But then he goes on to say that he feels that this is a drive access location issue. And he pointed me towards two people that work in access, Ed Pierce, who I know would be the best contact to work with finding an access solution.
So different entrance.
Not necessarily a different entrance, but maybe a more safe entrance. So I believe this road was, it's not an old pre-existing road. It's a private road for one. And I believe it was probably installed in the late 60s. And that predates any permitting that happened. However, Westford, so we have like 4 residents in Underhill and the rest of the residents are in Westford, right? So the road goes in, it splits, Underhill on the left, Westford on the right. At the very top is the Duffy Hill cell tower. That had to go through Act 250. And I talked to Jim about this, and I'm like, shouldn't they have looked at the access there? So any new, basically any new subdivision of land that is accessed via a state highway, the state has party status to join in the DRB proceedings, and they can dictate that the road be widened or the site distance be just like you can with a curb cut on a municipal road. So,
well, I don't know if it's a speed issue. It is an enforcement issue. I mean, anyone that has spent any time traveling that road would know that if you're not going 55 plus miles an hour, you might as well be just standing still.
I know.
That's a section of roadway that people are going, and there just happens to be enough shadowing on that road that creates ice. If there's a stretch of Route 15 that has a tremendous amount of motor vehicle crashes, and I can say since 1989 I've been responding to them, is from North Underhill Station Road to Allen Irish Road. That's the section of roadway that seems to have a lot of motor vehicle crashes, and this just happens to be almost like right dab in the middle of it. And the residents know. I mean, some of the residents, we had a gentleman here whose daughter was, hit because, she couldn't see, the sight line was, obscured and people are flying. So I kind of think like we can request a traffic study and, see what the 85th percentile is, but I still feel like we should request that they maybe lower that speed limit. Regardless of the 85th percentile, similar to what they did in Jericho, near the Jericho Tavern, when the 10 or 12-year-old was hit and killed. And they lowered that to 25 miles an hour. And I'm not suggesting that they lower the speed limit to 25 miles an hour on Route 15, but I do think that there's a combination of awareness for people, similar to like the signs that we're talking about, where I don't know of the state ever putting in a sign like that, but maybe they would be agreeable if we were to spend the money to try to put something like that up there to, maybe slow people down. You know what I mean? Like there's got to be some type of component that would make people aware of what the speed that they are going is. And maybe that would be something that we could discuss with District 5 to see if, if the town was to pay for it, and we have, I don't even know if ARPA funds, I know that there was a few dollars left over for the ARPA funds. Would it make sense for us to, enter into some type of agreement with VTrans to maybe put something in there as a effort to, make people aware that the speed limit is 55 in that area, and see what that does. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I think there may be laws against those digital speed signs on state highways because I've never really seen them.
Right.
There's something to that, but I get your point.
And the other thing about what you had mentioned about the different entrance or exit can they do tree trimming to cut,
Well, that's what,
so you can see around the corner, cut the trees back so you get a sight line?
I think that some sight line, if I'm looking at the driveway on your pictures, there's some sight line things that could be done.
There's also-
Because I imagine, and I don't want to put the onus totally on the homeowner, but I think that driveway could be cleaned up a little bit more. It seems like it's cleaned up on the state right of way. But, some of those trees on the side, I know it's hard to see on that curve, but, cutting some of that tree down, I don't know who owns the tree that's hanging over the edge over
that's
there
all,
at the curve, but, that could go down.
that's all VTrans right away through
Yeah.
there.
I mean,
But
maybe
that could be something that would,
Well,
it'd help.
as Jim said, it's an access issue, and having a safe flat place where you can enter and exit. If you can't enter the curb cut quickly, if it's rough and you have to go slow, I don't know, I'm not saying, but anyhow, I could also take a stab at drafting a letter.
I think we should reach out to VTrans and ask them to take a look at it.
But the question is, do you want it to say that you feel the speed limit is being reduced? I think Bob made a good point. But it seems like that's such a,
You got ledge in there. I mean, it's like, it's not
Yeah.
it's not like, it's going to be as simple as, I don't think, is like cutting trees, type of thing to make that sight line. I think that you've got ledge, going from Jericho to Cambridge on the Fairfax side of the road, which would be the west side of the road. I think there's, ledge in that area. So even if you cut the trees on the western side of 15, you'd run into ledge. So it's not the greatest.
I guess what VTrans' point is, like, well, that road was put in after, they cleared all that ledge, and basically it's a non-complying access right now. I'll forward the Ed Pierce's contact off to the person who reached out. I'm trying to remember her name.
so people want to go to blame speed limits right away, but, in a way, it's non-compliant. And if you lower the speed limit when it's not even the 85th percentile, people will drive fast anyway. And it's an enforcement thing, but
But I think it's also one of those things where the rules were, those rules were never, I don't believe, even thought of when this was cut in.
No, probably not.
When Roy Drive, when the first person came along to, build over there, I'm sure that there wasn't the regulations that there are today about, things like that. And if it was, then, I think we have learned, what to really look for and to make sure that, it is in compliance, because, bad things have happened.
Well, what really surprised me is, I say, the tower, that's an Act 250 permit, and they look at everything when that happens. And I can't believe the access wasn't addressed at that
there's a
point.
lot of mailboxes there. Are they offer? Right?
Yes, 12, there's over 12 residents
really?
there, yeah.
And it's a private road.
And it's a private road. Yeah.
I mean, just cleaning up, improve your sight line tremendously, just cleaning up right next to where the road hits.
I'm sure when that ledge was blasted, the visibility was a lot better, I'm sure. I can take a stab at
They
drafting the letter if you'd
could
like.
put a mirror too. I've seen that.
That's true.
A mirror on the other side of the road so you could see around that curve.
I think what they're really worried about is the school bus stopping and then
Right.
no one I did notice some bright orange or yellow school bus signs there.
They've already had a motor vehicle crash where a student driver, a driver under the age of 18 years old was T-boned within the last 9 months there. They're lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
I think it's worth having a robust conversation with VTrans. And if that means I put my name on it, then I'm all for that.
Got nothing to
You know,
lose, I
just-
guess.
I think we should write, yeah, I agree, we should write to VTrans, whether it's a speed study in addition to the speed study, looking at some trimming aspect, because I think trimming,
Well, you can't really make recommendations to them, but you just have to say that you're concerned with the speed there and the accidents and the
And the
speed
sight line.
and the sight line.
and the sightline, point out the
Sightline.
sightline.
Point out the obvious.
I think we could write
Speed.
that letter, but we aren't saying that we think this should happen.
I could say something like that at the end, you know, the Underhill Selectboard does not claim to be experts in sight lines and speed
I think that's
speed
probably
limits,
fair.
you know, something. I can get it ready for next time we
Okay.
meet, and
Let's do that.
That'd be good.
because no one's going to be studying anything until the weather gets better. Then apparently it has to go, he did say it has to go, so that request then goes on to the traffic committee who meets quarterly. And if the request does not meet criteria such as 85th percentile, you know, they might just say, oh, no, they've already got the data. They might just say, no, this is an enforcement issue.
Well, they also had that in Jericho where it didn't meet the 85th percentile, but
Yeah.
yet they also lowered that speed limit.
They did.
So
No, I don't-
that's not a hard, fast rule, but that may be a rule, but
And I don't think that was happened awfully quick. And I think that it was a reaction, and I'm not sure it's legal.
Yeah.
If I were ever to be pulled over there because I'm going 30, I might challenge it, because I don't know if it's, you know, I don't know who put it up there so quick.
Well-
It's an unfortunate thing. I'm not minimizing that, but.
So
it's-
I'll draft the letter, and then in the meantime, I will pass along the access person's contact information to the person here that reached out to us. Miss Atherton. Joy Atherton, I believe her name is. So. Okay. It's 8:20. I guess we're at closing public comment.
Yes, is there any public comment wanted to be made? I see none, so we will move on to the warrants and minutes. I move that we approve the AP warrants for 4/13/2023. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
this is the one that has the Visa bill in it from TCM Bank.
From where?
TCM Bank. It's our credit card.
I believe so. Is it
It's 380.
I'm not looking at it. Dan has them in his
I
hand.
don't see it in here.
I'd like to put that one off to the side.
Oh, there's another page. What is it for, Bob?
I'd like to put it off to the side and we can talk about it, executive session. But I don't want to move on that.
Um, Can we approve all those save? The one you want to set aside?
Sure. Set aside the visa bill.
Okay. Well, I will make that a motion then.
I'd second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries 3-0. And the one on the warrant will be saved. I move that we approve the AP warrants for 3/1 to 3/31. Is there a second?
Second that.
Discussion.
I just want to make sure I got the right, one. You just give me a second.
Looks like these might be the quarterly ones. All in favor? Aye.
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 This motion carries 3-0. I move that we approve the payroll warrant for 4/13/2023. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries 3-0.
I'd like to move that we reconsider the warrant and minute for, that was dated 3/1 through 3/31 and remove the visa bill. That was the last one that we voted on. The visa bill is in this document, not the first one.
It's in the quarterly one.
Right, the quarterly one.
Oh, okay.
So I move that we reconsider that and remove the visa bill and approve all the rest.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries 3-0. So we have minutes, of course. Select board minutes. I move that we approve the minutes for Thursday, March 23rd, 2023. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Any observations, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The minutes for that date are approved. We have a special select board meeting minutes, Tuesday, March 28th. I move approval. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 That motion carries 3-0. And there is an emergency select board meeting on Thursday, March 30th. I move approval of those minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, you were.
Okay, aye.
Those minutes are approved. 3-0.
You want to do your executive session about this visa bill before we get too far along?
We can. Shouldn't take long. Move that we go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter.
Second thought.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Please stop the recording.
This conference will now be recorded.
We got a mics.
I move that we re-enter open session. It is 8:24. Is there a second?
Yep, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are in open session.
No action was taken while we were in executive session.
Do we need to approve
We can now approve the
the full?
full visa minutes for the quarterly of 3/1 through 3/31.
Second thought.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
That motion carries 3-0. We have a select board meeting scheduled for April 27th, and now we have a hearing scheduled for April 20th.
I do have a little bit of correspondence. Just to share, I did put in your packet, there was an animal control issue. That was in your packet. I did got some good news today that the Better Back Roads grant that I applied for, the 60,000, we got it.
Nice.
Not all of it, but 56,000.
Well done.
Got
Which
that.
back roads are we going to better?
Happy of that. Yeah, I was glad. I had a good feeling about
Good
it.
idea.
And then just to notify you that with the church's affordable housing initiative is how they're referring to it today instead of project. This project's kind of like got a bad rap, you know, but initiative, the affordable housing initiative. So Dan and I kind of had explained this before, but there's a second part to this. You know, Senator Sanders' office has allocated them $200,000. So in order to do that, we had to do what's called a notice of finding of no significant impact and notice of intent to request release of funds. It's kind of a long-winded thing, but it's a environmental release review. So as soon as that's done, then and that's up on the website now, and the warning has been out in the paper, and it's up on our website. And as soon as that public comment period is over, then the church will be able to use the $200,000 to purchase the property, help purchase the property. So that's good news. And that's all the correspondence I had.
How does it work then? Once they purchase the property and they go through permitting for subdivision, do they sell that property to Habitat?
I think the goal, I think from what I understand, yeah, their goal is to purchase the property, you know, use the planning grant funds to get it to where it's shovel ready. And then I think they just kind of hand it off to, I don't think there's any money changes hands to Habitat for Humanity, who puts up the homes.
So who, the people buy the homes? though?
Exactly, but
Where does that money go?
that goes back into the, maybe into Habitat, I guess. I'm not sure.
No, I suppose, because they're putting the money out to
Right.
build the home.
And they're, you know, 100% 501c3 corp. But anyway, that's, yeah, it's not the church's intent to build these homes, just to get it there.
I have one thing. Brad, I'd like to see if you could reach out to Richard or Rachel Becker about the Memorial Day Parade that will be coming up here very shortly, probably within the next month or so. And I believe it's going to be going from the Brownsburg Middle School up along River Road and down Park Street. So we may have to take action as far as filing with the state and, well, maybe not the state because we're not going on Route 15, but closing the road and making public notice and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't want to wait until our next meeting because that would probably give you a very short timeline to, work that out. But
I already got it on that. So I already been talking to Alan Morris. This help. Richard's not feeling so well.
Okay.
So Alan Morris has stepped up to help, and I've been working with those guys, and I was hoping that we're going to put it on the next agenda and be all ready to go.
You're on it.
Yep. And there's going to be a presentation at the park. So I went through the same thing. I think I saw an old email that you had, Bob, about the outlet that's there. There's power there, and they want to be able to plug in some speakers like Super Sound, Grand Aldorf speakers. But so yeah, we're working on it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And there is a little bit of a fund that's in our budget. I think it's $200 to purchase flags that go on the grave sites.
I think we would need to move on that fairly quickly because I think the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts usually take a weekend, a couple weekends before Memorial Day to put those all out. So
yeah, Rachel usually buys them and then we reimburse her for the flags. Yep.
Good.
Coming right up.
Anything else?
Don't think so.
I move that we adjourn the select board meeting.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. It is 8:31. I call to order the Underhill Liquor Control Board. And is there a public comment that anybody wants to make? Seeing nobody, crickets.
Actually, machine gun fire.
So I included in your packet a memo Sherry wrote up. So it's a little different. We used to get an application, or you used to get an application for the renewal of the license, but it's all done online through the portal. But her memo kind of speaks it all. Everybody's in compliance. Everybody's in good standing.
So I move that we approve the renewal for the liquor licenses for Wells Corner Market and Jacobs and Son Market. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, questions?
Seems like the right thing to do.
Yes, indeed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries 3-0. Do you want us to sign that now?
No, it's just basically by you. Oh yeah, just sign below so I can make the improvement. Yeah, so you can pass that back to Dan to just sign below, and or
Okay.
you all could. Why don't you all sign it?
Okay. Yeah.
Adjourn for you guys.
Patty the Great. Who's saying it?
I thought you were gonna go ahead. Great.
I move that we adjourn the Liquor Control Board. It is 8:33.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned for the Liquor Control Board.